Hi guys, it's Shar. Welcome back to my channel, Crafting Up a Storm. Today I'm part of the 5 Under 5 collaboration, which means I have 5 great projects for you, all under $5 each. The theme this month is Patriotic Decor, and our host and guest host information I will share with you in the video. Hopefully, one of these projects can inspire you to add some red, white, and blue to your home decor. Let's get crafting. I picked up this dreaming sign at Dollar Tree and I took off the words and the paper, and I was left with the two kind of mountain looking. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with this when I bought this. I thought about maybe watermelon slices, but I thought it was going to be perfect for something patriotic. So I'm going to tape off one of the triangles, and I'm going to paint the back of that in white plaster chalk paint. For the other side, I used my sticky notes that I like to use down on recent paint jobs, and I painted it ocean. I put some washi tape down. I didn't measure it or do anything. I just eyeballed this, so of course these are not straight stripes. I wasn't really worried about it. But I painted them with Waverly chalk paint in crimson. I didn't have to do too many coats of the red chalk paint because I had painted the back of it with the white already. But I love how the washi tape does a nice stripe. After it was dry, I dry brushed some plaster over the top of it to age it, like I've done with all my projects today. And for the stars on this side, I decided to make my own stamp. So I cut out a star pattern from cardboard, and then I cut it out twice from some fun foam. I wanted to have a little bit thicker layer, so I wanted 2 layers of fun foam built up. I glued those 2 layers together, and I put the cardboard star on the back of that. For a handle, I took a piece of tape and taped it down and folded it in the middle so that it had a little bit of a handle, and cut off all the edges so that those didn't pick up any paint. And I have a little star stamp. You can do this with any easy shape. I picked up some white chalk paint and I stamped down a star. I kind of got it thick on the edges, so I wanted to go through so I didn't have any kind of ridges around the edge, so I did go in with a paintbrush and kind of knock some of that down. Now I took some jute twine and wrapped it around the back, and I wanted it kind of loosely around my sign. You'll see once I turn it over when I'm gluing the blocks down that I also tacked down along the side so that it didn't slip, it stayed in place. So I glued on the side of the twine. I made a line and I glued down a tumbling tower block. I glued 2 tumbling tower blocks to the back, and then I stood 1 tumbling tower block on each of those, standing up more so that I had a bit of a stand, and it leans back a little bit. That's why I drew the line. And it displays them a little bit better. And those are my mountains, my Patriotic mountains. I liked this one as well. What do you think? For this project, I picked up one of the tall house signs from Dollar Tree, and the package in Crafter Square that has hearts, stars, and flowers. There's usually 2 each of each wood ornament. And I did have 2 stars. I already cut one down, but I wanted to show you. I just didn't want it to be perfect. I kind of wanted a more wonky star. So these are thin wood. You can cut them down. I just used a regular pair of scissors. I took the back off the house very quickly, and then I painted the frame. On the inside, I painted it with red chalk paint in crimson. On the outside, I painted it with ocean chalk paint. I also painted the edge. I'll show you in a minute. I painted the edge with the ocean. And then I wanted to age it. I did use some of the antique wax on it, but mainly I just used a dry cloth and rubbed the outside. Here I'm painting the stars. I did paint them ivory. For the back of the house, I used some scrapbook paper from Hobby Lobby in a Patriotic old-fashioned pattern, and I distressed the edges really well with some sanding. Here is where I'm distressing that frame. I rubbed a lot of the paint with the cloth and I filed a lot of it away. I did use a little bit of the antique wax as well to darken it a bit. I didn't want it to be bright red and bright blue. I'm using that same antique wax on the top of my stars. I go way out of camera here, I'm so sorry, but I just wipe it on and then I kind of let it sit for a minute and wipe it away. And I just kind of keep doing that to build up layers. And it just ages it a bit and makes it not so stark ivory. I wrapped some twine around my stars, and I did put some of the crafters blocks in the back. I wanted the stars to pop up out of this house. So I glued those down, and then I glued my twine to my star, and I just wrapped it willy-nilly and then put my stars up on the blocks. And I had glued the back to the frame. That's why there's clamps holding the frame together. This is one of my favorites. It was very easy, but it came out really cute and different. Today's video is part of the 5 under $5 DIY challenge. The playlist is hosted each month on the 5th by Missy from Crafty Cove DIY and Emily from Farm Charm Chic. This month's guest host is Tammy from the Rusted Willow. The theme this month is Patriotic Home Decor. And I encourage you to check out these ladies' channels and watch the entire playlist. It is a great group of DIYers, and you are going to get a ton of easy and affordable patriotic DIY inspiration. Enjoy! I picked up this little vase at the secondhand store for 99 cents. I know that you won't be able to find, exactly this, but you can use any vase from Dollar Tree and do the same technique. I'm painting it with the Waverly chalk paint in plaster, and I want to make this look kind of like the chipped enamel look to it. That's what I'm going to go for this little vase. I did several coats of plaster chalk paint and I dried them in between. I did paint the inside just because it's a wide opening on the top of this one. Once it was all dry, I went in with a very small brush and some black chalk paint, and I went around the edges and here, there, and everywhere. Mainly the bottom edge and the top edge, and then small flecks of black here and there. I wrapped some twine around the neck of the vase. I did add some charms, so I wanted to make some star charms. I used a cardboard tag and I drew a star shape, 2 star shapes. And I cut those out. I rounded the points on the star. I didn't want it to be, I wanted to be more rounded than pointed. But I wasn't worried about them being perfect. I painted them with some chalk paint in plaster. I wanted to cover up the black lines that I used to draw the star, so I could start with a solid base. A couple coats of the plaster chalk paint did the trick. On one of them I used the ocean chalk paint, let that dry, and on the other I took a very small brush, that same small brush, and I just painted some stripes. I didn't care about them being perfect. In fact, I was going for imperfect stripes. On my blue star, once it was dry, I used the metallic pin from Crafter Square and I made some polka dots. This is the white metallic pin. These are my charms for the end of my twine on my vase. I did go around the edges on these to kind of match my vase a little bit, and I put some black around the edges. It's not necessary, but I thought it kind of matched the look I was going for on my vase as well. I glued these to the end of the twine on my bow, and that was it. You can put greenery or flowers or whatever you'd like in this. For this project, I picked up a long sign at Dollar Tree, one of the long board signs. I'm taking the paper off. You can see I started with the heat and that really didn't work well. I resorted to scoring the paper on the front with a straight edge, and then I would add some water to the paper and let it sit for just a minute. Then I was able to scrape it off with a spatula tool. Once I had all of the paper and the glue from the back, I was able to sand it down. I'm going to cut it at 5 inches, 10 inches, 13 inches, and 16 inches, which means I'm going to have a piece that's 5 inches long, another piece that's 5 inches, and then 2 pieces that are 3 inches. So I'll have a little piece left. I cut it with my miter box and saw. I don't need it at an angle, I just cut straight through, and it's pretty easy to cut through. I'm going to sand all of the edges down, paying close attention to sanding down the corners. I want to round them a little bit and not make them so blocky. I also have a foam dice from Dollar Tree out of the package of 4. And this is going to make our block flag. The foam dice I am going to paint with Waverly chalk paint in Ocean, a long and a short in Ivory, and a long and a short in Crimson. I'm going to dry brush the red and the blue with the ivory paint just to age them a bit. However, for the ivory blocks, I need to use something with more of, it's just a darker color. So I did get out my hazelnut. It's very blotchy at first. It looks like too much of a difference, but once I took a dry wipey and really wiped it afterward and kind of spread that color around, and then I did a filing. I filed on top of it as well too, and that knocked a lot of the color back and made it look much more just weathered. I used the top of a package and I cut out a heart. I used a felt heart shape to make that. I painted it ivory as well and used a little of that hazelnut around the edges to distress the little heart. And this is going to go on our foam dice. I used wood glue on the back and glued it down. After I distressed the block as well. It took probably 3 or 4 coats of the ocean to cover the dots on the dice. But I took some wood glue and spread it out. Now, I didn't show it on the video, but I did also put something heavy over the top of it for a little while so that it didn't curl up and dried flat onto my dice. Now I stacked my flag blocks up, and on the bottom block I'm tacking down some jute twine, and I'm going to wrap it around my blocks. That will hold them in place. And I just kept wrapping until I felt like I was good. I think I wrapped it 4 times. I did a loopy shoelace bow for the top. And there you have it. I found this great shiplap beachy looking fish at Dollar Tree, and it's light blue, white, and turquoise striped. I'm going to make it patriotic for our patriotic decor. I taped off the top part of the fish, and for the stripes, the middle stripe is already white, so I'm just going to protect that to keep it white. And I'm going to put some paint. I cut the tape in half so that I can fit it over the smaller stripe. And I'm going to paint it with Waverly chalk paint in crimson. I used a nice flat brush so that I didn't get it along the edge or in the shiplap crevices. I did 2 or 3 coats of the red chalk paint. Now I'm going to weather it a bit with a fan brush and just dry brush some of the plaster chalk paint over the top. And there we have our red and white stripes. For our blue, I'm going to use Waverly chalk paint in Ocean, and I don't want to use the tape again. I'm afraid I'm going to pull some of that red paint off, so I just used a sticky note. And again, I'm trying not to get it in the crevices in between, so I'm using a flat brush again. I put 2 or 3 coats of the Ocean on, and now I'm dry brushing some of that plaster. The white stripe on the original fish was already weathered looking. I got some of the styrofoam scatter, and I wanted to use one of the stars for the star on our fish. You don't have to. You can use a cardboard cutout or a sticker. I just liked the 3D effect that the styrofoam star had. I didn't want it to be glitter though, so I did paint it with the plaster chalk paint. And then I used some cashew and I distressed the edges and the corners of it a bit. I glued our star onto our fish, and then I wanted to make a stand. I had a block left over from my flag block, and I had a dowel from a package I think I picked up at Hobby Lobby. You can use a skewer, you can use cake pop stick, whatever you have available. I found the middle of my block and drilled a hole, and with a little bit of hot glue I stuck in the dowel. Found out how tall I wanted it to be, cut it down, and then I painted the stand, the block, and the dowel with chalk paint in Ocean as well. It was a very simple project. I had all the material except the scatter and the fish. But even if you had to buy some skewers, you don't have to stand it up on a tall stand. You can just put a block on the back. It's up to you how you want to do it, or you can make a hanger on it and hang it in the middle of a wreath. However you want to use it. But it was a very simple project, and I love the way it turned out. I hope you enjoyed these budget-friendly DIY projects as much as I really enjoy bringing them to you. This 5 under 5 challenge is my favorite. I love bringing you low cost and easy DIY projects that hopefully will inspire you, or it's something that you can recreate for your home. If you liked this video, consider hitting the like button and subscribe to my channel. I'd love to add you to my crafty family and continue bringing you some wonderful on budget projects. As always, keep crafting.